Hello and welcome to Participle Clauses and Relative Clauses 2. And today we're going to find out what a participle clause is. So you probably already know participles, you've used them every day. There is the present participle, which is the verb plus the ing form, which is taking, playing, or flying. These are words you've used all the time. And the other participle that you already know is the past participle, which is the verb plus ed, or the irregular past participle, like taken, like to take, took, taken, which is an irregular past participle, or the regular past participle played, which is the verb plus ed from to play, or the irregular flown. Okay, so these are the two types of participles. And now we're going to move on to participle clauses. So what is a participle clause? A participle clause is a part of a sentence, which you can see here, which starts with a participle, flying in this case. And we can use a participle clause instead of a relative clause. And why would we want to do that? It's because a participle clause is significantly shorter than a relative clause. So instead of she sat in the plane which was flying to Germany, we could just say she sat in a plane flying to Germany, which is shorter. But we cannot substitute every relative clause with a participle clause. So here's the case where it's working. So here's the relative clause. This is the man who does illegal things. We have the relative pronoun who and the verb does. Okay, so we have a case of relative pronoun plus verb. This is a case where it absolutely works. When we have a relative pronoun plus a verb, then we can substitute it with this is the man doing illegal things instead of who does. Okay, and here's the case where it doesn't work. Okay, so in this relative clause, your phone is a thing which you use every day. We have a relative pronoun plus a noun, you. Okay, so a relative pronoun plus a noun does not work, cannot be substituted with a participle clause. Okay, so we have the first rule. We can only substitute relative clauses which have a relative pronoun plus a verb. Relative pronoun plus noun does not work. So when we have checked whether we can actually use a participle clause, which one should we use? Should we use the present participle or the past participle? And there we come to our second rule. We use the present participle when the verb in the relative clause is active. This one is the important one. So as an example, we have this is the man who does illegal things. And we look at the relative clause and at the verb here, does. And we see it's active. So in the participle clause, we use the present participle, doing. And we use the past participle when the verb in the relative clause is passive. So for example, we have these are strawberries which were grown in California. And were grown, of course, is the passive form of the verb. Okay? So in our participle clause, we have to use the past participle grown. Okay, so to sum up, if the verb in the relative clause is active, we use the present participle, and when it's passive, like here, we use the past participle. So in conclusion, you have to ask yourself two questions. One, do we have a relative pronoun plus verb? Then yes, you can use a participle clause instead. And question two is the verb active or passive? Because when it's active, you have to use a present participle clause, and when it's passive, you have to use a past participle clause. That's basically it. And now you should practice this new grammar. So we have 4 example sentences which have relative clauses, and you have to substitute the relative clauses with participle clauses. So go through these example sentences and ask yourself the 2 questions. You can also find the grammar in your book on page 181 if you need help. I'm looking forward to your results, and I see you in the next lesson. Have a great day.